Today, Bungie's game director Joe Blackburn released a massive article on bungie.net detailing the next year ahead for Lightfall and future of the Destiny franchise. This article has tons of information all timestamped down below, expanding players' imaginations, bringing challenge back to Destiny, enriching content, and connecting Guardians. This includes things like changing up the seasonal models with Season of Defiance and Season of the Deep, tuning abilities, weapon crafting, Crucible, bringing back exotic missions in a Rotator, and tons more. Welcome Guardians, let's dive right in. Joe first starts by saying, first, the good. We've gotten to a place where Guardians can expect consistency in the quality of content coming to Destiny 2 all year long. From the Witch Queen to the Season of the Seraph, we are incredibly proud of the high-quality shooter content and storytelling that has been added to the game over the last 12 months. But amid this quality and consistency, Destiny 2 can sometimes feel too predictable. While some consistency is necessary for us to be able to regularly update the game and prevent players from having to relearn Destiny every 3 months, it is clear that too much predictability has created a lack of surprise and delight by the time some of our major game updates get into your hands. So here are the 4 big goals we're going to talk about in today's article leading up to the final shape. Expand players' imaginations, bring challenge back to Destiny, enrich our content, and connect the Guardians. In Season of the Plunder, and maybe even before that for some of you players, there was a massive burnout. Players were tired of the same old vendors, the same old activities, leveling up the same thing season after season. Lightfall will launch alongside Season of Defiance, and while most of this content was wrapped up before this new goal was put into place, they still have numerous seasonal quality of life changes, along with substantial iterations to their current model coming to shake things up. Starting with reducing complexity with the progression systems. Overall, this means fewer competing currencies to earn. Starting with Lightfall, Umbral and Umbral engrams are going away. So after you've unlocked seasonal focusing, if you want to focus an engram into a particular seasonal weapon or armor, all you gotta do is use Glimmer and a seasonal engram. Additionally, these seasonal engrams will be stored and tracked on seasonal vendors, so managing the engram bucket in your character's inventory will be much easier than it is today. Here is an image of Season of Defiance. We see some interesting imagery here. I can't tell if this is in the European Dead Zone given the trees, but Marasov is in the background, Guardians with some Solstice of Hero looking gear, Cabal ships, and some type of structure in the middle. At first I thought this looked like Rasputin's chamber, the one found on Mars, but perhaps this is connected to the darkness. Also not sure what the middle Guardian is doing here. Maybe we'll head back to the ley lines plot points like we've seen in Season of the Lost. Let me know your thoughts below. Also changing for the seasonal model is chests and their currencies. Instead of holding a large stack of seasonal currency to unlock a chest at the end of every seasonal activity, instead they'll be dropping singular keys throughout your playtime that will allow you to extract better rewards upon completion. These keys won't drop every time you complete an activity, but when you get one and spend it, it's meant to be a meaningful bonus. And by default, the keys can drop from those seasonal activities, which means you're no longer required to play content outside of that playlist to chase seasonal rewards. On top of this, starting in Season of Defiance, players can expect fewer total vendor upgrades, with each individual upgrade being more potent and some upgrades even offering a variance in the way you interact with the seasonal activity. After Season of Defiance is Season of the Deep, and they say with some time under their belt to react to recent player feedback, Season of the Deep will not feature a vendor upgrade paradigm. The same will be true for the following season. This doesn't mean players will never see a vendor upgrade system again, but instead means we want to create a more varied experimental framework and slowly create a wide array of different systems for players to show their investment into seasonal content. One thing we want to continue from last year is casting a wide net when it comes to the themes and fantasies our players can expect with each release. Lightfall already has a very different tone and setting from the Witch Queen expansion, and we want to continue this tonal variety in our seasonal content as well. From Reapers to Pirates to Cowboys, last year's seasons proved that Destiny 2 can encompass experiences that contain wildly varied inspirations, and we are committed to the adventures in Lightfall's collections of seasons feeling just as thematically fresh from one another as they did last year. Moving on to weapon crafting. While they love having some sources for deterministic perks, they found the route to getting the weapons you want to craft can be too random. At the same time, this also diminished the joy of simply getting a great perk on a drop. So here's what you can expect to change with weapon crafting in the year of Lightfall. To create independent chases for both crafted and non-crafted weapons starting in Lightfall. Fewer of our total weapons will be craftable, and more of our weapons with long-term sources will get value from random perk rolls. To allow these non-crafted weapons to stand toe-to-toe with crafted weapons in Lightfall, more and more of our non-crafted weapons, starting with the new raid Adepts this year, will have the ability to be enhanced. Enhancing allows your dropped weapon to start leveling up, use mementos, and gain access to both enhanced perks and enhanced intrinsic properties, but only the enhanced versions of the perks and masterwork that are already on the version of the weapon you are enhancing. Simply said, with some time and resources, enhancing allows you to take the random rolled weapon you've obtained and enhance its existing roll to match the full power of a crafted weapon. We are targeting to roll this out initially with Lightfall Raid Adepts at the launch of Season of the Deep. Long term, we want to expand this functionality to most of our new non-crafted weapon drops, but there will be some technical hurdles we need to solve first. For crafted weapons, they have some additional changes planned. You will never see deep sight on a weapon unless it is something you need to make a pattern progress on. When you see a red border in game, you know it's valuable. Targeting Season of the Deep, we will also be adding a mechanism to activate deep sight in any craftable weapon they do not have a pattern for. Moving on, bringing challenge back to Destiny. Over the last year, we've seen many changes, like bringing the subclasses up to Stasis 3.0 standard. During that time, not only did our abilities become more powerful, but their synergy with weapons and gear raised the total power tide for all boats. This results in a game with a more compelling RPG, but at times lower levels of challenge in our core content. So how is that changing? First up, tuning abilities. Destiny is a game about guns and powers. We want both to shine. So starting with Lightfall, we are moderately increasing ability recharge time across a wide selection of our abilities. We've also noticed that enemy combatants just aren't hitting as hard as we want them to, especially against max resilience guardians. So we're adjusting the amount of damage resistance granted by resilience and increasing the energy cost of resilience mods from 1 to 2 for minor mods and 3 to 4 for major mods. Let's talk more about those enemy difficulties. Recently, we've been happy with the level of challenge presented in the base Heist Battlegrounds playlist. To achieve this, we use a difficulty knob that enforces just how overleveled we will let players be compared to the enemies they are fighting. This knob has always been present across our activities, and it's adjusted based on how evergreen we want this challenge to be in those missions. They were happy with these settings in Season of the Seraph, so the base Battlegrounds playlist in Season of Defiance will use these same settings. Carrying this approach over, this will also be adjusting the same difficulty tweak in the Vanguard Ops playlist. Vanguard Ops won't be changed too much, but they want it to feel more engaging to the average Guardian in Lightfall. This approach to power and difficulty is also going to be present when players are roaming around Neomuna, and while they don't want the entire game to feel like it's turned up to 11, they think these changes will help the enemy forces patrolling Neptune feel more dangerous and worth your attention. Speaking of power caps, there is some changes coming to this as well. We think there are some major issues with the power in Destiny 2 and how it prevents players from seeing some of our best content, so we'd like to make some big changes to that system in the final shape. However, to understand this more better, they're going to take some time over the next year tweaking power settings during Lightfall. For example, when Lightfall launches, they will have a power climb that was similar to the Witch Queen expansion, but later in Season of the Deep, they don't plan to raise power or pinnacle cap at all. The next big category, enriching content. This involves Crucible, PvE and Strike activity changes, and more. Player versus player combat is here to stay in Destiny 2, as we think it's one of the most inherently replayable parts of the Destiny experience. Last year they added a couple of game modes, but that's not changing for Lightfall. We're looking at getting Countdown back into the game along with a respawn variant of the game mode we call Countdown Rush, where players must detonate or defuse both bombs on the map before the round ends. We also aim to run a series of Crucible labs, including a mode where the player sandbox is dramatically changed. Weapon damage, ability uptime, and even ammo are all adjusted in a new mode tentatively called Checkmate Control. This mode will reward players who use their smarts and their skills. So if the only way the enemy has been able to shut you down in the past is a solo blade barrage, they might be in trouble. This isn't all they have planned for modes, so keep your eyes out on labs for more classic and all new modes later this year. Also coming to Crucible is the arrival of Meltdown in Season of the Deep, a brand new Vex network themed map in Season 22, and the return of Citadel in our last season before the final shape. We will also be looking at existing maps and doing a spawn returning pass in many of them this year to improve how our various modes flow. They are still experimenting with the connections and different matchmaking varieties, but they want you to think about that Iron Banner revamp we had, but this time for the entire Crucible. While they haven't settled on all the final details, they are currently looking at the rewards and matchmaking structures of Trials of Osiris and would like to push more updates into that mode this year in order to more consistently keep the population at healthier levels. Finally, in competitive, we want to improve the speed at which players climb to the rank that matches their Crucible skill, and ensure it's clear why you won or lost a specific number of ranked points shown after a match. Exotic Mission Rotator. Over the years, Bungie has added tons of great exotic missions like Presage and Operation Seraph Shield to Destiny 2. This year, not only will they continue to create new exotic missions, but starting in Season 22, they will be adding an exotic mission Rotator. So this Rotator will feature exotic missions from the past and will rotate on a weekly cadence and offer great rewards for players willing to dive into some classic content. In Season 22, the Rotator will contain the exotic missions from Season 13, 16, and 19. So Presage, Vox Obscura, and Operation Seraph Shield. So this is super cool to see some of that content return from the content vault. Presage was a great mission and some new players will get to experience it now. Bungie is also refreshing some of these strikes. 2 strikes from Destiny 2 will be getting reimagined, the Lake of Shadows and the Arms Dealer, both base Destiny 2 strikes. Both have had their objectives and their encounters reimagined and upgraded to match the combat engagement levels of some of the more recent strike entries. In addition, they're also taking some of these strikes that have not been updated recently like Exodus Crash and Inverted Spire and dramatically reducing their presence in the Vanguard Ops playlist while eliminating them for Nightfall rotations. These strikes will still be available for direct launch, but until they get brought up to the quality of some of the recent Vanguard content, they will not show up frequently as part of ritual gameplay. Alongside Lightfall, Season 16 and Season 19 Battlegrounds will be added to the Vanguard Ops playlist. Bungie really likes this fast-paced, enemy-filled chaos of the Battlegrounds, so this year they'll be adding a selection of the Battlegrounds as Nightfalls. This will begin with the Mars Heist Battleground being a part of the Nightfall rotation in Season of Defiance, and expect to add more over each season. And to wrap up this article, we have connecting our Guardians. First up, chat is being changed from opt-in to opt-out, so you have more chances to interact with Guardians and connect with those who you have synergy with. Next to that is the Fireteam Finder or LFG system. While a raid reprisal is coming this summer, they're pushing the Fireteam Finder out a bit to the final season of this year ahead of a brand new dungeon. So that's kind of depressing. It comes at the end of this year when we're close to the final expansion of the Light and Dark saga, but I guess better late than never, and you can always find third-party options for LFG in the meantime. But Guardians, that concludes this massive Lightfall in the Year Ahead article posted by Joe Blackburn on bungie.net. If you'd like to stay up to date on all Destiny news and information, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.